Here's Bitcoin on the daily chart, zoomed out. We have some daily red candles happening right now. Put crypto aside for a moment. These headlines are just never fun. Israel strikes Iran, declares state of emergency, war. Just a sad thing. And I do want to track the charts. I know many of you, if you're like me, you probably don't like the headlines either. But you're also probably looking at the charts. You're probably watching, what's going on in terms of these assets and what's going on with markets. So I do want to be here and I want to track this with y'all. There's actually a lot of structure going on right now, surprisingly. And we talk about this all the time, whether it's Bitcoin or altcoins. It could be an event that triggers a structural move or that triggers a move to a certain target. And this is what we're going to discuss as it relates to Bitcoin, Ethereum, as well as ADA charts. So if you're out there, hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way in. Let's jump into this. I want to start real briefly with Anthony Pompliano's post, just kind of a broader sense of what this is doing to markets. Oil up, gold up, Bitcoin down. Initial reaction follows exactly what happened when Iran shot 300 missiles at Israel. Bitcoin ended up outperforming the other two over the first 48 hours in that situation. Will be interesting to see what happens here. So this is kind of some really good context in terms of this current situation and to track how Bitcoin and crypto does actually react to this, not just in the immediate sense, like right now, even tonight. I do not know how this is going to play out when we wake up tomorrow morning, but even the next couple of days, this will be very interesting to track. So let's start with Bitcoin, and then we're going to look at Ethereum charts, and then we're going to look at ADA charts. For Bitcoin, I want to play a clip. This was from May 21st, 3 weeks ago. Check this out very quickly, and then we'll talk about it. It goes to 110,000. People are like, this is it, game on, and then it stalls out. Either way, we could have a resistance area here, and we have a very nice structural setup for a potential inverse head and shoulder. So if we fail here, Bitcoin starts coming back down. Maybe as we get this 50 crossing above the 200, we need to. So that was weeks ago, and this is a very nice illustration of how these things need to take time to play out. And it's already played out one time. That is, when I was doing the video somewhere back here, we did start falling. We tested the 50. We're actually testing the 50 right now. But notice the 200 is still down here, $95,000. We've actually really not even tested the 90s once again. We were just above it on June 5th, like around a week ago. So there is potential that Bitcoin puts in a lower low here and we do test the 200. In that case, we'd have a even probably more sound looking, structural looking inverse head and shoulders. Right now, this setup that we have here is a very small right shoulder, and maybe Bitcoin puts in a higher low right now. I do not know, and we continue up and we still have a right shoulder. But if Bitcoin actually starts going down more, we might have an even kind of more even right shoulder if we're testing the 90s. But either way, we have to look out for potential support if Bitcoin does keep falling to the 200-day moving average is the next area on the daily that I'd be watching for support. It's around $95,000. But you can just see, we have absolutely no idea back here how things will play out. We especially don't have any idea of if we get an inverse head and shoulders, what could potentially trigger that. But right now, even in this moment, I think as we have some type of world event taking place, it is very helpful to just get that reminder that oftentimes it takes macro events that trigger a certain type of move to certain targets. So in this case, we might have the inverse head and shoulders still playing out. That is just something that we won't know immediately. We have to continue tracking this. But even on the short term, the 50-day moving average, Bitcoin trying to see as support, I do not know if that's necessarily going to hold, in which case I will be looking at this next area at the 200-day moving average, $95,000 to $96,000 for Bitcoin. Right now sitting at $104,000. I know it sounds like a steep decrease in price, and it is, but at the same time, structurally, looking back on the charts of Bitcoin, it really would be a normal move. And that's just something we'll have to wait to see if Bitcoin gets there. I want to go over to Ethereum. So Ethereum, what's been playing out is this massive symmetrical triangle. You all know, if you've been watching my YouTube channel, I've been talking about this since breaking to the downside back here. And we've been getting this very nice technical move, meaning the fake breakout, the pullback, and even just the retest for weeks at the lower trend line. What was most recently happening for Ethereum was we were getting this break above that lower trend line in yellow. This is a multi-year lower trend line. Ethereum breaking into this apex will be a very big move. And you can see how it has failed. We've had this kind of upper trend line resistance. This just shorter term upper trend line resistance has obviously held very strong, and Ethereum right now falling. And even in the midst of the current headline, falling really to this structural move at the lower trend line that Ethereum is starting to form. So Ethereum's in kind of this channel right now. And if you look at the lower trend line, that's around 2,400, just above 2,400. Ethereum's around $100 away from even testing that area. Confluent with the area is around the 50-day moving average. And so if Ethereum can manage to see support here, and if markets actually don't just capitulate in this event, maybe we'll see Ethereum start trending back up and testing this lower trend line. However, we just looked at Bitcoin, the downside that is in play if this move continues. This is a very new event as I'm doing this video. So there's a very strong possibility the move could continue. Ethereum target is around $2,000 right now from where we're standing. That is a move of around 19%. If Ethereum kind of hits this trend, this channel range that it's in, and hits this lower trend line breakout to the downside, around $2,000 is the target. So that's just something I'll be watching for Ethereum. This, again, is a move that could be the catalyst, or I'm sorry, an event that could be the catalyst for the move. This happens often in technical analysis. Put that aside. This is something we've talked about, and not even that target. We've talked about lower in terms of Ethereum. The previous swing low in early April to the swing high resistance, we have this this higher low range. It's a Fibonacci range of around 1900 to around 1700. So it would be interesting if cryptos fall and Ethereum's falling and we're hitting this target even and falling lower, are we wicking into this range? We have to keep in mind all of the ETH accumulation that is taking place right now from an institutional perspective. The inflows have been pretty crazy. And we have to keep in mind, if Ethereum is dipping to a higher low on a macro, there might be a very nice bounce if that were to happen. And that's something we have to just continue to watch. This is the patience game, especially when it comes to altcoin charts and the volatility that is here. Because so many altcoin holders want that breakout. I'm one of them, right? We want that breakout for Ethereum. It didn't happen, and we're actually getting potentially the opposite right now. But for me, this is why I go to the charts, especially in moments like this, and I use the charts as kind of this guide to level the emotion, level kind of the playing field here. Because whether this headline was happening or not, we were talking about these things anyway, right? A higher low for Ethereum. Resistance at this trend line. So technically this move has been in play anyway. So let's continue to track that if we have a catalyst that's going to make it happen. Let's go over to ADA. I know there's a lot of ADA holders out there. This is something I've been talking about in my recent videos. If we go over to this other chart that I have open, you might have seen a recent video where we kind of talked about just the bottoming out formation for ADA and the way that it does it. It's very frustrating. It can fake you out. Like back here in October, we're thinking, man, we're about to break out, and then we fall lower below a trend line, an important one, and it's actually the end of the bottoming out. Well, we've fallen below this trend line, and we're just hobbling around, bouncing around. I want to remind you of an ADA higher low area because it's being tested right now. And I want to point something out to you before or right after we talk about this support area. The higher low ADA support area on this Fibonacci is 64 cents. ADA is like just below it right now, and 58 cents. So on the very short term, let's track to see if ADA can maintain that support, this higher low support. All things considered, we looked at Bitcoin, Ethereum charts. Let's see if ADA can hold this support. If it doesn't, I want to draw your attention because this previous swing low all the way back here, you notice how ADA did hold support above that Fibonacci multiple times, right? We want that to happen again. Hold the Fibonacci multiple times. But I do want to point to your attention, we've been in a scenario where that just has not happened. And a very good scenario is not the last bottoming out structure, but the bear market bottoming out, right? So swing low to swing high, you can just see ADA did not hold at that Fibonacci and we fell below it. ADA does that. It's very volatile to the downside, and it can be very volatile to the upside. And even if we want to take this swing low and use that as the Fibonacci, what you're going to notice is we failed just below that Fibonacci as well. So swing low to swing high, and we would have wanted to see ADA hold at the Fibonacci, and it went slightly below this. Now, that's a move that can happen on any chart. Even on a Bitcoin macro chart, that is a move that I consider if I want to show you that. I do want to show you this very quickly because I think this is important. But if you take a Fibonacci from a bear market low to a bull market high, right? We look for Bitcoin to potentially even fall below that Fibonacci range. And you can see it just did in this previous bear market. But we go to previous bear markets before that. Check out how these Fibonacci's work. Here's a bear market low 2015 to bull market high. That's Bitcoin falling below that 786. That is incredible accumulation area. And whether you're looking at risk models or momentum oscillators, you'll see that as well illustrated on those charts. But falling below a 786 on a macro Bitcoin chart, that's an area of probably oversold on the macro. And so it is probably an area of oversold on something like a shorter term ADA chart. So the reason I'm explaining all of that to you is because we might fail at this higher low Fibonacci. First things first, let's see. 58 cents is the lower end. It would be great to see ADA hold. But if we start falling below and testing this previous swing low in April, it's just something to keep an eye out on as far as what is the RSI doing? How oversold is ADA in that environment? Because again, I'm saying all of this is all shorter term analysis, but I'm saying all of this in context to someone standing here that still thinks altcoins and the crypto market and Bitcoin still has a bull market ahead of itself. And that's just because of everything else that we have going on right now that I've been talking a lot about lately in terms of Fed policy, in terms of just macroeconomics in the US and what is going on right now from a crypto legislative perspective. The Genius Act is officially being voted on Tuesday in the Senate. So there's a lot of things going on that I think are very bullish on the macro. But I do want to kind of do a video today just talking about this shorter term move, because I know if many of you are like me, you're also watching this. So there's the video. I hope you got some value from it. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed the video at all, hit that like button. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.